How are y'all doing? I said y'all. I'm from Minnesota. We don't say y'all. We say, how are you all doing? I'm super stoked to be here, and I want to just real quick shout out to Patrick and Paul and Heidi and the whole team that had the idea of creating a tech conference for our industry, and how exciting it is to be here. And I have a presentation. There it is. Sweet. So the first year that I did this presentation, I was talking about frictionless and friction and how we could make our technology feel a little more human and how we could make the process a little bit easier. And then last year, for those of you who got to hear that, we spoke about how to choose technology and all the human behavior that drives it and how humans are super emotional creatures. And by the way, this song is kind of cool, kind of catchy. I'm talking over the lyrics. But it's all about the awesomeness of generative AI in remodeling. It's in the presentation, so you can download it later and you can listen to it. This is going to be your new favorite song in the car, I guarantee it. This song was created, I think it took me all about 15 seconds to create this song using a single prompt. Kind of cool, right? So today I'm going to talk a little bit about generative AI, and I'm going to try to give you guys some real-world examples and show you how we use generative AI in our business specifically, and ways in which you might consider applying it. For those of you who heard previous speakers, there's some really great ideas that have already been shared. I want to just note Patrick's comment about dumb idea land, which I thought was a pretty good, was sit and wait or get in the game and then dumb idea land, and how quickly the technology is moving. And I'm going to put myself firmly in the camp of it isn't if, and it isn't even when, it is already happening. And all of the things that we're thinking about or not thinking about are in motion. The speed with which it's going to change over the next 3 to 5 years is going to make the last 15 years look like an eternity. That it is going to accelerate far faster than we can comprehend. So there's some great platitude out there about, you can be anything that you can imagine. Well, I'm going to argue that imagination is probably the thing that is limiting us most. That what we can imagine is our limitation, and that it is what we are unable to currently imagine. Those things that are beyond our comprehension of existence, those are those areas, those places, that's where the real possibility lies. That's where things are going to get really exciting. We talk a lot about AI. So what is AI? And when we talk about AI, we should be really clear. AI has been with us for quite a while, right? We've been using different versions or different forms of these artificial intelligences since the 80s. There was a spike, and then it plateaued. There was the cold season of AI, and then there's been this new rebirth. This processing power has been able to finally catch up with it. But we should understand that what we're dealing with is a very narrow intelligence. So we say AI, but we should really be saying ANI. ANI versus AGI. AGI is artificial general intelligence, and that does not exist. And that's actually a fairly decent way out. Maybe that's 10 years out, maybe 15 years out before we can actually talk about a general intelligence that is able to reason or contemplate or consider in a way that is truly generated by the AI. That is, people say, oh, the AI can make decisions. The AI can't really make decisions as it currently stands. It's given a series of values, and it can respond to those values. So we deal with these narrow tools, like even GPT. GPT-4 is a really fun tool to play with, but it has very narrow and limited capabilities. So we refer to as an ANI. What makes software, or what makes a system more powerful and more dynamic, and we're seeing inside even the OpenAI model, is a series of these narrow intelligence that are placed side by side, and together they give the illusion of an AGI, of a general intelligence, but it is a long, long, long way from being that thing. So ANIs cannot replicate human thinking, and they cannot replicate or imagine So if you ask an AI to imagine the unimaginable, it's unable to do it. If you ask AI to describe itself, it's unable to do it in visual form. If you there's these boundaries and you bump into them, the more you push on these technologies, the more you find out where those edges are. And the reason I'm bringing that up is because it's really important. This is not a magic wand. This isn't a magical tool. This isn't like some, brain that you can plug into, and if you do that, you have the power of the universe at your hands. Rather, like all of the other tools that we've become accustomed to using, it's simply a matter of know where the edge of the tool is, know where its sweet spot is, and then implement that tool so that you're maximizing its efficiency. I think Patrick made a comment about apply technology to the areas of your business where your processes are best, where you're most efficient, and I think that that's a really smart way of saying it, right? You want to do the same thing with these technologies, find out where they are best at, what they're best at doing, just like with your resources, your human resources, put them in places where they do the thing that they do best, and that's the same here. So there's not a magic bullet like solution that's going to change your business radically. I mean, it will change your business radically, but hey. In the near future, we're going to have neuromorphic AIs. So these are within like the next 2 or 3, 4 years, neuromorphic AIs that mimic the way that we think, the way that our neural pathways function. These are going to be reacting to visual cues to understand better emotions and then the subsequent reactions and what they will produce from the object. Same thing with sensors, right? Measuring even simple things like temperature and humidity to understand the relationship with comfort and then to make changes or modifications to a system so that you have the resulting impact that is desired and that the thought process to get there, the complicated thought process that we go through as humans, which is pretty much it's a non-linear process, right? It's a neural network, that they'll be able to do that. The other is XAI, which is explainable technology, which is big in the realm of transparency. And again, previous speakers made the comment about car sales, right? Transparency has been something we've been talking about now, since the early 2000s? And there are still folks who resist the notion of transparency, but in every industry, in every sector, maybe except for construction, and even there it's starting to disappear, transparency is taking hold. Same is true for AI. We have to understand how it's being programmed, how it's thinking, how it's working, so that we have transparency within our AI systems. And the last is adversarial AI. There was somebody came up here and said, if you visit our website, we will know where you live. Well, shit, I don't like that. Right? Someone's built an attack AI, which is expected, right? That's going to go out and drill down and figure out who you are, where you are, everything about you. It already exists, right? So we're going to have defensive AIs, AI agents that battle other AI agents. It's going to be the most super cool Matrix movie you've ever seen, and it's going to happen in a nanosecond in the back end of some website, right? All of those things are being developed, and if we don't consider them, right, there are going to be lead pirates. In fact, I think Paul was telling me there are these lead pirates. They build websites with better optimized content simply to get people to go to their websites, and then they're going to come to you and say, I got 150 qualified leads for you, and if you pay me this much money, I'll give them to you, right? That's a very real thing that already happens. I'm pretty sure that one of my competitors in this room geo-targets our projects so that when people go visit our projects, they go call his office and try to get a remodel. It's a very real, anybody doing geo-targeting with your advertising, right? And you obviously put it on your competitors, come on, right? This is all stuff that we're already doing. I'm going to focus on generative AI. Hopefully that's what you guys want to hear about. What are we generating? Or maybe a better question is, what can't we generate? We can generate pretty much everything, right? Art, music, estimating, takeoffs. We can do consumer experience. We can do business intelligence. We can do all kinds of generative AI in everything you can think of, right? I don't know if AI can produce a recipe for a great meal yet, but I suppose it's probably, I haven't tried it. Someone can give ChatGPT-4 a shot. By the way, their big launch yesterday is that GPT-4 is now available to the public for free, and it's faster. But even more exciting, they've put it in the API, which means that you can put LLMs or large language models into the back end of your APIs, which will allow for that natural language interface, which is what makes them so exciting, right? Is you don't have to think about how to communicate with this thing to do your research anymore. You can just talk to it like it's a human being, and that feels good. And if you listened to my talk last year, you know that things that feel good are sticky. They're the things that we adopt and that we use. So the more you can make it feel good and comfortable and easy, the better. That's the opposite of when you call customer service and you get the AI chatbot that can't help you, and you start screaming, agent, agent, human being, get me a person, because, right, it doesn't work. So this is we're always trying to weigh out, like, where do we want friction and where do we want it to be frictionless? So we're going to break all of our generative AI into a set of categories, because otherwise it's just too broad. There are thousands and thousands and thousands of generative AI technologies that we're using, and many of them are borrowing from each other. Many of them are different assemblies of narrow AI bots that can do specific tasks that get called on to do other tasks within the platform. If you're into coding, GitHub, Tab9, really great for developing code. If you're into predictive analytics, Procore, for those of you who might be using job management software, can already look at a project and predict risk. It can look at a schedule, it can look out at material supply chain, and it can predict where there might be a bottleneck and where you should intervene. Rike is a great workload management tool. I'm not going to read all of these, they're on the slides. But just to note, in virtually every sector of every industry, or every part of our industry, there is a generative AI tool that is able to take on some part of the task. Again, doesn't take on the whole task, right? There's even, where is it? Oh yeah, DeepKey. DeepKey can do retrofit analysis on an existing building to determine which retrofits you should put in place, how much of the material you need, and what the potential savings, both energy and carbon, would be. That's really big if you're in the sustainability world and you don't want to hire someone to come in and do that work for you, right? Take pictures, send it drawings. That's pretty awesome. We already have our BIM tools within AutoCAD, Archidesk, Revit. All of these things designed around making our processes more efficient, right? Has anybody used estimating, any of the estimating AI tools that are out there, right? There are simple tools for our industry where you can walk up to a building, take a picture of it, it will analyze the building, kind of the way that EagleView does for roofs, and it will tell you everything you need for siding, how many nails you need, how many pieces of corner trim. I sent it a set of drawings, and it came back with all of my metal roof parts, all of my wall cladding parts. I mean, it was an exhaustive list. It took about 15 minutes. That's a massive time saving. Even if it wasn't accurate, right? Let's say it wasn't accurate to the tune of 5 to 7% over. Would that be okay? If I could get an estimate, full materials takeoff in 15 minutes, and I wasn't doing anything for those 15 minutes, it was doing. I went off to do something else. So again, where we can apply it for efficiency is pretty powerful. Then we get into things like Avatar. They're kind of cool. Synthesia has one, Colossian has one. There's a couple others out there where there's, a face pops up on a screen and it explains something to you. And they're kind of cheesy, they're kind of hokey, but they're also kind of cool. It's a little bit easier to hear information from someone that, and again, we can have it look like any number of people. They could be male, female, they could be from any part of the world. They can speak any language, so depending on how you enter the site, you might get a different avatar speaking to you, guiding you through the process. How many times have we struggled to connect with somebody based on their culture or their background when the avatar could quickly understand where they're coming from and do that communication for you, right? Pretty powerful. Voice cloning is something else that's also possible, and just for fun.
Welcome to the future of remodeling, where AI tools enhance how we envision, plan, and execute major projects. AI tools, today, not tomorrow. Empower.
That sounds like me, right? I didn't record that.
ツールが主要プロジェクトの構想、計画、実行方法を強化するリフォームの未来へようこそ。
So what I wrote,
AI ツールは明日ではなく今日、リモデラーのより高い集中力、効率性、生産性、利益をもたらす力を与えます。
30 seconds? Don't imagine. That's all happening already. It's already coming. how do you bring that into your workflow? How do you bring that into your website? How do you bring that into your process to improve communication? Our keynote speaker spoke about trust, right? And clarity. Well, if you can be clear in how you communicate information, if you can be clear in how you communicate contract documents, then you're going to build trust. That's a super easy, simple way to begin that process. That did sound like me, the first one, didn't it? A little bit? Do you want to hear it again?
Welcome to the future of remodeling, where AI tools enhance how we envision, plan, and execute.
I mean, if you told me that was a recording of me, I would say that sounds exactly like me. All right, so I'm going to talk a little bit about assistants. Who's using an assistant currently? Anybody? Some of you should all be using the assistants. They're super easy to access, especially now that GPT-4 is free, the 4.0 version. It's a very fun, comfortable interface. It's a good way to start the process of engaging these tools. The AI assistants, which other folks have referenced, are coming. They will be part of your daily life. They will live in your watch or your handheld computer that we used to call a phone, or they'll be the chip in your head. I don't know. But they are going to be part of the process, and they're just going to make things easier for us. We're not going to be going to Google and searching for things to get web results anymore. We're just going to ask Gemini, hey, I'm looking for some food, and we're going to say it exactly like that. I'm looking for some food in my area. You know, I kind of like, I like more ethnic food. But Gemini already knows that about you because you communicate it with every day, and it's gathering information about you, your personality, when you rated something 5 stars or when you rated something 2 stars. And it's going to make really good recommendations for you. And that will guide you through your life. That will be the norm. That will be for our kids. That will be completely normal. ChatGPT 4, Jasper, and Gemini, they're all large language models, which means you can use natural language to communicate with them. And I'm going to highlight a couple of the things that I think that they do especially well. First, they offer you the opportunity for critique. So you've built something. You've written an article. You've built a website. This is an opportunity for you to share that with this assistant and for it to give you feedback. Based on that feedback, you might ask it to perform additional tasks. You don't need to know how to optimize your writing for search. They already know how to do that. You might choose to optimize, or you might choose not to. The article from Qualified Remodeler, I fed that into GPT-4, and I said, what do you think? And it had some good feedback. It noticed there was a couple areas that could have been expanded a little bit more. It would have appreciated 2 more specific recommendations in a particular area. It noticed that the language in one sentence was a little bit academic. It could have been dumbed down a little bit for the average American, right? All of that is useful, and it happens quickly. And then it's not only that, but it's implementable. And this, I think, is really the key here, right? It's not just that it says, you could do this, you could do this, you could do this. You can then say, well, then do that, please. Got to be nice to the AI. And then it will do that for you and ask you if you approve of the changes. And you reread it, and maybe you approve of all of them, maybe you approve of some of them, maybe you say, yeah, I like all but the second one. You're speaking to it like this. I like all but the second one, so let's leave that one the way I originally wrote it, but the rest I feel pretty good about. And actually, the last paragraph, can we make that into bullets? I think that might read a little bit better. Do you agree? I do agree. Let's do that. Okay, let's do that. Done. This is simplifying a process. It can also provide counterpoint. So if you're trying to build an argument for something, let's say you're writing a piece and you want to make a case for something. Well, ask it to provide the counterpoints. Ask it to argue with you. Ask it to go toe-to-toe with you. There's a really great video out there, and I forget the author's name. He cloned his voice. He cloned his body in AI. And then he had the large language model read all of the books he'd written, all the articles he'd written, watch all the videos that he'd been in, and then the two of them sat down for a side-by-side interview. And the AI got to ask him questions, and he got to ask questions of the AI. And it's about a 40-minute long conversation. Imagine how wonderful it would be to have a conversation with yourself, because we all love ourselves, right? We're all focus of our attentions. But think then of what it also means for us to be able to tap into though maybe I want to have a conversation with Carl Sagan. Why not? What would this individual think about this idea? If I'm targeting a particular market, and I know that that market segment has a few thought leaders that they're really into, maybe I could say, hey, here's our website, or here's our content, or here's our pitch piece. How do you think, I don't know, I'm going to use Carl Sagan again. Carl Sagan would respond to this. Or what would Carl Sagan say about this particular subject? Can we integrate some of that? Do you have some quotes that we could weave into that? That's very, very doable quickly. It can refine your language. It can also explain a subject. So I've done this more than once. I'm in a meeting, talking to somebody. They make reference of a term or a style, and I'm not super fluent in it. And I can, on the down low, ask GPT to quickly explain that particular thing to me. Blap, I get a bunch of information. Now I understand what the client's trying to say to me. Or maybe I do that on my own and I research a subject, but it can explain things to me, which is super option, and it can suggest options. This is a chat that I had on the plane on the way down here because I wanted, you guys saw Three Body Problem, right? Who's seen Three Body Problem? Such a fun show, right? And there's this moment in the show where the aliens say, yes, well, the speed with which humans evolved looks like this. You took, a million years to go from here to here, 100,000 years to go from here to here, 10,000 years to go from here to here, 500 years to go from here to here, 50 years to go from here to here. Your rate of growth, your technological rate of growth is super, super fast. And I wanted it to show me a graph of how I could represent that to you. And the first graph I came up with was terrible. And so then I just said, hey, what's another way that I could represent that visually that would be more digestible? And it said, well, if you put it in a logarithmic graph, maybe that would look better. And this conversation went on and on and on. And you know what? It was like when you ask someone how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Have you done that exercise? Anybody? Anybody? No one's done how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich? Well, you put peanut butter and jelly on a loaf of bread. Okay, here's a loaf of bread, here's a jar of jelly, here's a jar of peanut butter. Well, that's not a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. You got to take the bread out of the bag. Oh, okay, take the bread out of the bag. Here's a jar of peanut butter, here's a jar of jelly. No, you got to open the jar first. Okay, I'll open the jar. Still not what I want, right? This is about the intelligence of AI right now. You have to be super, super clear in how you describe the thing to get the results that you want, if you want to get deep and granular. If you want to stay light and fluffy, it's great. But you quickly bump into the edges of these tools when you want to get something super specific. I'm going to talk about Jasper, which is actually based out of here in Austin. It's an evolution of an IBM tool that I always forget the name of. Here's the reason that I like using this tool. I've been using it for a couple years now. First, it has a Chrome extension, so it's always with me when I'm browsing. It's always just hanging off on the side, and it's not obtrusive. It doesn't talk to me. It's just there. I can see it. And so if I'm writing anything at any point in time, in any little box that I have to fill out, I can ask it for help. That's super useful. It pauses when it writes. It will start down a paragraph, and it will pause. And it's an opportunity for me to tap for it to continue, like it's on the right track, or to stop it, reframe the question, reframe what I'm asking it to do, and then head on. Or to illustrate in greater detail whatever point it's trying to make right now. It's multilingual, it has lots of templates. So if you're gonna do a LinkedIn post, it will give language that is optimized for LinkedIn. If you're gonna do, you wanna do a description for TikTok post, it's going to generate text around the subject that is optimized for TikTok. It does those things automatically for you. It's super useful. Where I think I really love it most, two areas. It knows my brand. It knows our voice, because we feed it all this information. So it speaks like it's an employee of our company. And it helps me with visual idea generation. So here's just for fun, here's a couple prompts, right? I wanted it to see a promise that falls short of expectations. That's the one on the right. And then a perfect breakfast of whole roast peacock, grilled raccoon with fur, coffee in a blue ceramic mug, and earthy tones. It's a very specific prompt. It succeeds in some areas, it fails in other areas. It generates a mood. Would you agree there's a mood that's generated that's evocative in each of those images? Okay. So now I have a client who's trying to describe what timeless classic means to them. What the hell does timeless classic mean? What is that, right? You know, like Jackie Onassis. I didn't know. That's not what I thought of when I thought of Timeless Classic. But okay, that's your version of Timeless Classic. I want a contemporary house. I want lots of light. I want some green accents. I want some orange. What about these images do you like? Each of these images takes seconds to generate, but I'm using the client's language, right? Their language to try to understand their aesthetic. And I can render hundreds of ideas in the span of 30, 40 minutes, and we can drill down pretty tight on what their aesthetic is and what it isn't. Rather than a week. We'll come back to you with some ideas in a week. Who's still doing that? That's right, but I'll stop it. Let's sit down, let's just figure out, do you like this? What drives you? You've got a kitchen. I can describe the kitchen to the language model, and then I can ask it to paint me a picture. I can take a picture of your kitchen, put it into the language model. Now it sees your kitchen, and I say, based on this, I want to do something that's a little more retro. Okay, here's some ideas that are more retro. I want minimalism with orange accents. I want some bronze light fixtures. I want, blues and browns. I want some walnuts, some warm tones. These all take seconds, and yet they all generate emotion. They're all evocative, and they get us closer to figure out what it is that we're actually going to draw for the client. I want modern farmhouse or modern cottage. I want stone. I want a pool. I mean, none of these exist, right? You get that, right? These are all prompts that I gave Jasper when I said, I want a cool contemporary modern farmhouse with slate and some stone accents, and make sure to include some green grass and some trees, and I'd love a sunset if you don't mind. Quick and easy. What about advertising? Well, I'm a big believer in advertising. You got to move the eyeball around, and you want certain things. And maybe I don't have the photography that I need for that block on the ad. So what if I ask Jasper to help me out? Which of those images is AI generated, and which of them are real? Does it matter? It's a possibility. Is it any different than a rendering that I might spend 40 hours on Chief Architect and publish on our website, as we could do something like this, which exists on many, 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 many architects' websites, things that have never been built but have been conceived of? Is it any different? I don't know. Is it representative of our skills? I would argue, yes. Is it something I want to build? Yeah. You guys figured out which ones are which? It's pretty hard to tell. Maybe I want to do something that's more fantastical, right? Don't want it to feel too real. So I say, make it feel like a storybook. The other thing I mentioned is it knows our voice. So this is, hey, I need to write a thank you to a lead prospect letter. Well, this is what a GPT will produce for you, and it's very boring. And then, well, no, rewrite that in our voice, please. Completely different language, because that's the voice that we use in our company. We're excited. We embrace things, right? Profound sense of enthusiasm. It's picking all the fun words in there. All right, there are more visualization tools out there. Jasper is one of them. Posio will help you pick colors for a room. There's one called Renovate AI, and I ran a couple things through it with mixed results. So this is a picture of a kitchen that we have, and I asked it to do a contemporary version with lots of stainless steel. It kind of went nuts. And then I asked it to give me some paisley wallpaper. Okay, cool. I don't think I would have thought of doing that. And then I was like, it's too much, we need to back it down. And then it just went off the rails and did this completely stainless steel space. And then I said, make a bathroom inspired by that kitchen, and it did that. Which isn't terrible, actually. It's not, it's in that style, it's in that vein. And all I did was upload a single picture. Exteriors, not as great. Here's the picture of a house. Give me some ideas for cladding types. Well, those are all ugly. The one that says is all white, I said black windows with bright blue trim and an orange door. So clearly that prompt didn't work at all. There's some more, and mostly it failed when it came to exteriors. This one, although is a removal tool, you can grab things, make them disappear really quickly. So we're very familiar with generative AI because Rhino, Revit, Chief Architect, SketchUp, they're all generative AI tools, right? We draw in 1 dimension or 2 dimensions, and then it produces an image for us in 3 dimensions that we can move through, right? We have material takeoff and estimating tools. Chief Architect will generate a parts list. Revit will generate a parts list. I think I mentioned that there's ones where you can take a picture of it and do it. They integrate with our other tools. And what I think would be really, really cool is if we could see full-on integration with our project management software. So when I upload a set of drawings to Buildertrend or JobTread or whatever, that it then is able to pull it from our estimating database and pull together an estimate that not only includes materials, but also includes labor that we can then review and edit for accuracy, rather than the laborious process of actually estimating the thing. And then, of course, generate all of our purchase lists that go along with it. There's not enough time in 35 minutes. So, some more for communication, like Canva, Prezi, which I'm using, Gamma, which will turn things into presentations, and a lot of video. This is Gamma. I fed it the same thing, and it built a whole presentation for us. It was very pretty. This one is Video Wave. I asked it to produce some images and animate them for us. They're all kind of silly, but you could, it's the idea that you could create evocative content. I had to do this one because, it's crazy. Looks just like me now, right? So that takes 15 minutes of playing around with GPT, then throw it into CapCut or FastCut Pro, and then boom, you've got, have it generate some music. Here's one we did a shed project, the funky shed. We built a song for it. We're gonna make a music video. We'll have carpenters running around, jumping for joy. But again, simple prompt. Suno, I want a 1990s classic pop rock song about a funky shed in my backyard. And a minute later, this. I mean, it's as good as anything you're going to hear on the radio, right? That's not saying much. I know. All right. So last thing I want to touch on before we wrap up for today is another segment that I think gets overlooked, and that is in meetings and communication. And I'm sure you guys have seen these things pop up in your Zoom calls, Read or Otter or Copilot. Read AI is one that we use through our entire team. And kind of like Rilla does the ride-along, Read AI does this for all of our meetings. And it is watching the meeting, it's taking notes from the meeting, it gives us highlights, it gives us a little video reel of the top moments of the meeting. So I can review all of my team's meetings in minutes. And I can see the client's reactions, not just hear them, see them. Even more than that, the tool has coaching for sentiment, engagement, speed, and sensitivity. So for example, here it says that, well, my visual sentiment towards the speaker measured out of 100 is okay, but it needs some work. This is watching our eyes and watching our faces as we communicate with each other. Here is my charisma, the other person's visual response when I speak. How does that measure, right? Maybe I need to work on my reactions, but their reactions are good. Maybe the combination of the two will boost these scores. Our first speaker spoke about trust. All of these things feed into how they feel. People feel about this engagement that you had. Over here, filler words. I'm pretty good on filler words. I've weeded them out of my speech. By the way, when I'm in the meeting, there's a little dial on the side of my screen that is watching me and giving me real-time feedback as I speak to my client about the speed of my speech, the tone of my speech, and if I use a filler word, that filler word pops up on the side and I'm like, got to stop using like. Or if I say those guys or you guys or something like that, it's like, don't use that. That's gender-specific language. Dial that back. So all of these things are measured. It's without bias. It's just what is. These are just our virtual meetings because we do so many meetings virtually with our clients. Even down to how many questions did you ask? Because a sign of a successful meeting is if both sides are asking questions. So all of these coaching tools that will make your team perform better are already available for you to use. So in conclusion, before I get the hook, generative AI has come a long way in a very, very short time. And it definitely is not perfect, but it is an extremely valuable tool that is implementable today in a bunch of very, very practical applications. And it is going to rapidly increase and change over the next 3 to 4 years, not 10 years. This is all today, tomorrow stuff. And I'll close with a couple of images asking AI to recognize or to illustrate what does the human path of advancement look like? What does generative AI look like? What does a self-aware generative AI look like? Draw me a picture of generative AI generating itself. It clearly thinks it's human. And of course, this amazing conference. Thank you all so much for being here. I appreciate it very much.